I also notice in your table of contents a chapter titled, What If We Don't Make It? Could you talk a little about that?
Certainly. One of the reasons I wrote this book was to try to put to rest this horrible doctrine that the church has held since about the 5th or 6th century, that those who are lost will burn forever in eternal fiery torment. Now, how that got into the Christian doctrine is a long story and a very unpleasant one, and I think an unfortunate one. I don't believe it's consistent with the teachings of Jesus. When Jesus spoke of hell, and Jesus did speak of hell quite often, he used the term Gehenna. Now, the term Gehenna was a Aramaic transliteration of the Valley of Hinnom, which was a ravine outside of the city of Jerusalem where the garbage was burned and where bodies and things that they didn't want were consumed so as not to infect the city with disease. And the purpose of throwing garbage into the Valley of Hinnom, or Gehenna, was to destroy it, not to punish it. And so when Jesus uses the word Gehenna for hell, I think it was very clear that he was talking about a place where things are destroyed, not tortured or punished. So I believe the worst case scenario for a person who is not headed to heaven is that he will ultimately be destroyed completely, body and soul.
So how would you sum up the purpose of your book?
Well, this is, again, a fairly long story, and it goes back over 50 years ago when I was a student at Carleton College, and I was having a Bible study with some of my friends, and they were very bright but somewhat skeptical, and they came to me and said, in so many words, Bill, we like you and everything, and we know what you're trying to do, but tell me, how can you believe in a God who on the one hand bribes you with heaven, and on the other hand threatens to burn you forever in hell? Well, that indeed was a challenge that I took seriously, and I've spent most of my life trying to formulate a reasonable answer to that reasonable question. Not unlike the question that Larry King often asks on his show, which is why I dedicated the book to Mr. King, because he often asks his Christian guests, what's going to happen to me? I'm not a Christian. Am I going to burn forever in hell? And the answer to that question by his guests is often very evasive and elusive, because they're put in an extremely big dilemma, because if they say, no, you're not going to go to heaven, you're going to burn in hell, then everybody considers they're nutcases and don't take seriously anything else they have to say. If, on the other hand, they say, yes, Larry, you will go to heaven, then they lose their franchise, because they've spent most of their lives promoting the idea that you have to have specific knowledge of Jesus' saving work on the cross in order to get into heaven, and that you have to have that knowledge this side of the grave. So he never gets a straight answer, and then the whole purpose of this book is to give a direct, specific answer to the question, what happens to me if I'm not a Christian?